and welcome. This is Susan Lopresti, and you are listening to the Susan Lopresti Wellness Mind, Body, Soul podcast. I am so grateful that you decided to join me here today. My hope for you today is by listening to this episode, I could shed some light into why we can truly be our own worst enemy by self-sabotaging our life through negative or unhealthy thinking and getting in the way of our progress on this journey called life. For each of us, the journey may be different, but the result is the same. And that is we stand in our own way of healing and growing as women and as individuals. I want to talk about how we self-sabotage our health on a physical level, as well as how we sabotage the progress of healing emotionally as well. Today, we will be exploring what self-sabotage is, why we partake in it, and how to fight against the destructive behaviors and form healthy habits instead. Let's begin by looking at what exactly is self-sabotaging. Behavior is said to be self-sabotaging when it creates problems and interferes with long-standing goals. The most common self-sabotaging behaviors are procrastination, self-medication with drugs or alcohol, comfort eating, and interpersonal conflicts. Also, choosing relationships with others who do not serve our greater good, and why we continue to involve ourselves with these types of relationships. While these acts may seem useful and comforting at the moment, they ultimately undermine us, especially when we engage in them repeatedly. Even if you're aware of your self-sabotaging behaviors, there's no guarantee that in itself will be enough to disengage from the act. Still, it is possible to overcome almost any form of self-sabotage, and people do it every day. Can you relate to any of the following? You tend to focus on what's not working as opposed to what is working. You tend to fear the future, worry about the what ifs, and what might happen down the road. You feel like you have no value, and you find it challenging to recall accomplishments in your life. You criticize yourself often and can't accept compliments graciously. You compare yourself to others consistently, then you feel bad that you don't measure up. You chase away relationships. If you are in a relationship, you quickly find flaws and faults in the other person, or you tend to repeat the same relationships over and over again, meaning that the same type of person who you are looking to avoid is what you keep attracting more of in your life. Perhaps you feel like you have no purpose in life. For some of us, these behaviors are all too familiar. For others, they might seem to be a bit out of reach. Let's look at some specific actions and symptoms of self-sabotage that lurk a bit further below the surface. Here are some symptoms of habits of self-destructive behavior. Under the umbrella of self-sabotage, self-destructive symptoms can arise all the time and are signs that we are trying to self-sabotage. Here are just a few examples of this behavior. Failing to take action. Having a negative, pessimistic, or self-defeating mindset. For example, I know I'm going to fail. I just know it. Overeating, undereating, forced incompetence, which means you portray yourself as unintelligent or incapable, and women are more likely to do this than men. If you go out of your way to harm others, self-harm, self-pity, drug and alcohol abuse, deliberately alienating yourself from others, refusing help when it's offered to you, spending too much money that you don't have, physical neglect, such as getting poor sleep, refusing to exercise, eating unhealthy foods, and failing to maintain basic hygiene. These are all signs of mental neglect, refusing, avoiding, or failing to confront psychological health issues, anxiety, depression, or OCD. We all go through ups and downs, but if you find yourself returning to patterns of binge drinking, overeating, undereating, self-harm, or physical neglect, you'll likely find some form of comfort in the harmful actions of self-sabotage. So a lack of self-worth is a big one. There are a few main reasons that we participate in self-sabotaging behaviors. Perhaps the most all-encompassing is feeling a lack of self-worth. There are a million little factors that contribute to our feelings of unworthiness, and there are dozens of them. But the concept of cognitive dissonance can help us understand this more. Cognitive dissonance refers to the tendency we have to seek consistency among our beliefs and our opinions. Cognitive dissonance describes the discomfort experienced when two cognitions are incompatible with each other. A cognition is a piece of knowledge, such as a thought, an attitude, or personal value. Every time something doesn't make sense, like we're hurt or surprised by an action, we feel discomfort, and our brain compensates by creating a new reality that eliminates the dissonance. How does this play out in terms of self-sabotaging behavior? Here's an example. Let's say you don't like someone you work with, but one day this person goes out to get a cup of coffee. I'm using this as an example, and asks you if they could grab you one for yourself, their treat. After experiencing this exchange, you have two options moving forward. The first option is you could change your opinion of them and maybe actually think they could be kind of cool. The second option is you justify your previous opinion of them and you think something like, they must be after something. I don't trust that they would be this generous without an underlying agenda. Once you land on one of these options, your brain sticks to it. Your belief is either altered, as in the first alternative, or strengthened based on what just occurred by going with the second alternative. Our brains don't like cognitive dissonance. Processing new information makes our brains work harder and throws a wrench in the inner workings of everything. Therefore, our first instinct is to come up to a conclusion and move on, even if that means making a judgment that is not factually correct. Here's how cognitive dissonance and self-sabotage may play out in your romantic life. Let's say in one of your first romantic relationships, you were lied to, causing your brain to form the notion that romantic feelings are connected with hurt and distrust. As you progress forward through life and partake in various romantic relationships, you might find you never truly gotten over that initial mistrust, even if your new partner has never given you any reason not to trust them. You may start thinking to yourself, I trusted people once and look where that got me. Hurt. I'm not falling for this again. Like in the previous example, your brain selected option 2. I don't trust. Your brain likes it when it falls back into previous patterns because there's less cognitive work. It would be uncomfortable to learn new information, process it, then apply that new knowledge to all your memories and beliefs. It's easier to fall back into old ideas, and the same holds true if you keep attracting the same type of romantic relationship. Perhaps you choose a partner who is not fully emotionally capable of being there for you, or you keep choosing a relationship with someone who is abusive or who has issues with substance abuse or alcohol. This is what you know and what you feel comfortable with. And there's a part of you who feels a sense of not being worthy of better than that, or it makes you feel needed in some way, which gives you a sense of self-worth. There are some very deep-rooted beliefs that need to be worked through with a trained professional so that you don't keep repeating the same patterns over and over again and think that you will get a different result. That's actually the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We like the control. It feels better to accept your own failure rather than face the possibility of failure taking you by surprise. At least when you're steering the ship, you know where it's going, even if that means driving it into an iceberg of self-sabotage. Another self-sabotaging behavior is imposter syndrome. The higher up you rise, the further you have to fall. The fear of ultimately failing is another reason that we partake in self-sabotage. Our psyche is rooted in the perception that we're not deserving of the success you've gained so far. In return, we might partake in self-sabotaging behaviors such as doing the bare minimum, procrastinating, or diverting our attention in order to avoid this fear. Other reasons that we may turn to self-sabotaging behavior are due to familiarity or boredom. We're creatures of habit, but sometimes this means that we choose consistency over our own happiness or contentment. If we're used to being or feeling overlooked, mistreated, or exploited, it could be strangely reassuring to put ourselves in that position over and over again. Even though we know that these roles make us unhappy, we prefer them to the unknown. We might also turn to self-sabotage because we're bored. Sometimes creating drama or inciting conflict can give us a rush, and being in the middle of chaos can feel comforting in some way. The good news is that self-sabotage follows a predictable pattern, so we can change it. Let's pinpoint your pattern. Self-sabotage follows a predictable pattern. Awareness of how it shows up in your life will help you recognize it when it does show up so that you could take action to nip it in the bud as soon as it shows up. The first step in this is to think back to previous times you self sabotaged your life. Then figure out what point you typically began to indulge in self sabotaging behaviors and uncover the triggers. For example, let's just use this for instance. You had a crush on a barista at your local coffee shop for months, and you always go in and you chat every time you grab your latte. One day, the barista asks you out on a date, but you freeze and you come up with an excuse to get out of it. What just happened? Somewhere in that exchange, you were triggered. Perhaps as soon as your romantic interest began showing interest back, your brain didn't understand how to comprehend that new information. If your reality up until now dictates that you're not worthy of love, but suddenly you receive information that contradicts that reality, your brain sends out a signal to fight against that cognitive dissonance or discomfort of the new and the unknown and brings you back to familiar thoughts and patterns. Perhaps this means that you detach and you become uninterested, suddenly afraid, knowing that your relationship is moving forward and could ultimately fail. So get intimate with your fear. Think of self sabotage as a misdirected form of self love. Your brain is moving you towards self sabotaging behaviors because it thinks that it's protecting you from hurt and danger, when in reality, it's also holding you back from your full potential. Fear is an emotion most of us prefer to sweep under the rug instead of working to confront it head on. One step you can take to face your inner fears head on is to journal. Next time you realize that you might be partaking in a self sabotaging behavior, such as procrastinating, delaying, picking fights with loved ones, take a moment to ask yourself, what is it that I'm scared of? And why is it scary? Then ask yourself, if that worst case scenario happened, could I handle it? Finally, ask yourself, does this fear outweigh my desires? Once you've taken these steps and actually taken time to consider the situation head on, the fear inside you loses a little bit of power over your psyche. Repeat this activity as needed in order to train your brain to ease out old thought patterns slowly. So you want to face and embrace. Confronting our fears means facing discomfort, and sometimes the truth that we uncover can be a very ugly one. So we want to recommit to new healthy goals every day. Setting small goals will make you feel more accomplished and in control of your life. This is particularly helpful way to combat self-sabotaging actions because it fights feelings of low self-worth and keeps you motivated and moving forward in a positive direction. So don't be afraid to make lists. Perhaps take a moment to write down your notes and your thoughts. Start with small obligations, doing laundry, grocery shopping, picking up dog food. Crossing something off of your to do list is fulfilling in its own little weird way. I promise you that. Stop assuming things. Don't fall into the mental trap of harmful assumptions. It's easy to spiral out of control. It's natural to try to analyze and assess people and situations to make sense of our surroundings. The danger lies in allowing your imagination to wander too far, leading to worst case scenarios, which cause anxiety, frustration, and fear. Furthermore, the assumptions you make about the way people feel about you are often reflections of how you actually feel about yourself. After all, you're getting that harmful material from somewhere, your own self sabotaging thoughts. If you're feeling ignored, alone, or abused, and your first thought is, they treat me this way because, and you could fill in the blank. They must be thinking that of me because, fill in the blank. What you're actually doing is projecting your own feelings about yourself. If this behavior goes unchecked and you don't realize that you're making silly assumptions, you will actually trick your mind into making false judgments about other people. When you start assuming negative things, you attract negative thoughts. To fix this pattern, try and catch yourself, then distract yourself with something else that you enjoy. Do less better is a motto that I always adhere to, keeping your days simple and meaningful. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed with things that aren't a priority to you. And don't waste your time on things that don't really matter. Learn how to say no and start getting used to delegating duties to people around you. This could be in your work environment or your home life. Take time for yourself to do the things that you enjoy. Do you like cooking? Make sure to set some time aside to make yourself a nice meal at least once a week. Do you spend do you enjoy spending time with animals? Carve out an hour or two to visit or volunteer at an animal shelter this weekend. Doing things that you're passionate about will keep your stress levels down and allow you to focus more on your own goals and motivations. If you need some help, get an accountability partner. Surround yourself with people who are doing their best to fight against self sabotaging habits themselves. If your goal is to start creating more healthier habits, but most of your friends don't have a problem sitting around every night eating takeout, find a buddy to go to the gym with. Then, if and when you do find yourself slipping back into unhealthy habits of the past, you'll have someone that you could go to for help and inspiration instead of falling backwards. Life will bring you pain all by itself. Your responsibility is to create joy. There will always be times when we realize that we need to let go of something painful, be it a guilt or a toxic relationship. However, it's never easy to let go of something that we've become accustomed to. We get stuck in the middle of two realities, where we are and where we want to be. Fear of the unknown can hold us back, but we can choose not to let it be. So practice some acts of self-love. One way to solve this problem is to accept more self-love into your life or more love into your life. which of course can be difficult if you feel that you're unworthy of love. But remember that if you're always putting yourself into destructive, self-sabotaging situations, you aren't allowing yourself to expand your worth and reach your full potential. Since you can't control the love that you receive from the other people, the best place to start is with self-love. And here are a few very simple ways that you could practice self-love. Buy yourself some flowers. Sing loudly to your favorite song. Treat yourself to a concert, a play, an art museum, or musical performance. Join a walking group or sign up for a class. Take a hike. Pack your favorite snacks for a picnic in nature. Write down some of your favorite quotes or mantras and post them where you're going to see them every day. Plan a potluck dinner with your friends. Make some kind of art or create a do-it-yourself project. Praise yourself rather than waiting for others to praise you. When you do something that you're proud of, dwell on it a little bit. Relish the experience. It's not narcissistic, it's an act of self-love. If you confronted your boss and you finally asked for that promotion, give yourself props. That took guts. Being aware of your accomplishments will boost your mood and make you more self-sufficient. If you're waiting for people around you to congratulate you on your self-worth and self-esteem, we're giving away a key to our own happiness because the thoughts and opinions and beliefs of others are outside of our control. You want to also listen to your body. One of the best ways that we can practice self-care and break up with self-sabotage is to take care of our physical body. If you are consistently tired, try researching some natural supplements. If you're overweight, reassess your diet and your physical activity level. If you have chronic pain, look into the possible remedies like yoga or acupuncture or any kind of dietary changes that you could make. If we ignore our aches and pains, we're not putting ourselves first. We're not showing our bodies the self-respect that it deserves. We want to focus on the positives. Shifting years of negative self-talk to positive self-talk is a lot easier said than done. And it requires you to reprogram your entire mind, but you can do it. Even if you think that you're not that critical of yourself, you might be surprised. Most of the time, we're unaware of the unconscious dialogue that's going on in our mind. But here are some self-tricks you can use to boost positive self-thought. Practice positive affirmations. I deserve to be happy. Everything happens for a reason. I trust my intuition and I'm worthy of love. These are just a few examples that are excellent places to start. Repeat these phrases to yourself when you sense that you're spiraling. Think of failures as new opportunities. Sometimes things that seem negative at the onset can actually lead to really awesome things. Sit up straight. Slouching is an easy way to make yourself feel crummy, lazy, and lethargic. Sitting up straight will make you feel more useful, awake, and thoughtful. Avoid negative people. If your cubicle neighbor, for example, is always complaining either about the job or at the work or whatever, life in general, bring in a pair of headphones and listen to some podcast instead. If you have a friend who always sees the glass half empty, try spending more time with people who are willing to join you on your journey to a more positive outlook on life. Look at the big picture. You got a parking ticket, let's say. Yes, that's a bummer. But will it matter in a week from now or a month from now? Try not to waste precious mental power on things that are out of your control and that won't matter in the long run. Learn to forgive yourself for your past actions and cut yourself a break. When negative thoughts begin creeping into your mind, stop them in your tracks and counteract them with positive thoughts. Talk to yourself and defend yourself the way you would protect your friend or a parent, a child, or a sibling. Hey, stop that. You know that all that negativity isn't helping anyone here, and we can't afford to put ourselves down right now because we've got too much going on for us. We've been here before, and we know that it is behavior that isn't healthy. It may sound silly, but it's helpful. Sometimes all you need to do is hear the right words. And if they're coming out of your own mouth, that's even better. I know that we covered a lot here today, and I hope I've added some value to your day and to your life. If you like this podcast and think of anyone who may benefit from this episode, please share it out to them. And if you like what you've been hearing so far, please subscribe to my podcast so you don't miss the next episode that's coming out. Again, I want to thank you for being here. And until the next time, stay well, stay positive, and remember, no one can love you more than you can love yourself. On that note, bye for now. Have a beautiful rest of your day.